screen down into the first turn, starting actually over on the back straightaway. And Unser Jr., the pole sitter here, forges ahead to the lead. The Penske cars, first, second, and third as they qualify. The rest of the field flows through. I'm Paul Page with Sam Posey and Bobby Unser. In the pits will be Jack Arute and Gary Gerald today as we have a nice long afternoon here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course ahead. Qualifying yesterday was all but rained out. Qualifying times were taken from the run on Friday, and as a result, Unser Jr. took the pole, but as you can see, Paul Tracy snatched the pole away from him as they come to the first complete lap of competition.
Tracy was sick on both Friday and Saturday. He told me this morning he felt much better. Obviously, it's showing in his performance.
So Paul Tracy now leads his teammate Unser Jr. as they've completed what is scoring at the first lap, starting over on the long straight, coming out of the keyhole here. This course is 2.25 miles around, 13 turns.
And also keep in mind, Paul and Sam, that qualification with Penske cars, 1, 2, 3, Little Al, Paul Tracy, and Emerson Fittipaldi in theirs.
Parker Johnstone, as he slides, he's one of the 3 Honda entries here, and he's off the course, and looks like some damage may have occurred to the left front on that car.
He's definitely bent up a little bit, but just think how nice the tires. That could have been a really bad accident, whereas it turns out to be relatively minor because of the tires, the way they put them all together.
Emerson Fittipaldi currently runs in third. The officials in IndyCar have been concerned about sending out vehicles to get those cars off the course if they are in harm's way. And so as a result, they're going to be very careful today. And if they have to put a vehicle on the course any length of time at all, they will go towards yellow. Parker Johnstone, they're still trying to get that car off. You rode for a moment with Nigel Mansell.
Yes, and you know, he may not be bent as bad as it looks there. At least he may be able to get back to the pits to do a repair job in the pits. Looks like all they have to do is get it running.
Another car, that's Dominic Dobson, who took an excursion off the course, but he's back underway as well.
He's had incident after incident, several crashes this year, but it was bailed out by a brilliant third 2 weeks ago in the Michigan 500.
A lot of mud on that right front tire he'll have to wear away. There is the leader of the race, Paul Tracy. Fastest Lola to qualify was Nigel Mansell by nearly a full second ahead of any other Lola in the field, so he's very definitely one to watch.
Remember, it was Paul Tracy who was running away with this race at the same point last year. He led the first 22 laps, had one of his unfortunately characteristic brain fades, went off the road and out of the race. Here today, he looks like he's got clean control again.
And you can see, Sam, that Mid-Ohio is such a nice racetrack. Up and down, a little bit hilly, wide, really smooth. Probably the nicest road course that the IndyCars run on.
Built back in 1962, it was really a second-generation road course in the United States after Riverside, Lime Rock, Sebring. They really learned a lot and built a beauty here, and it's been much refined since then, particularly for the spectators. A great family place.
So now that 3 laps in competition are complete, Paul Tracy is the leader, followed by Little Al, then Emerson Fittipaldi. In 4th place is Nigel Mansell, the #1 car. You see him there. Mauricio Gugelmin, who expects a good day, currently runs in 5th place. In 6th is Michael Andretti, then Robbie Gordon, Bobby Rahal, Jacques Villeneuve, and Jimmy Vasser rounds out the top 10.
Mansell, of course, winless this year after 2 of the greatest seasons, certainly back-to-back, any racing driver in history has ever enjoyed.
Jacques Villeneuve, as he tries to challenge the Honda power in Bobby Rahal's car.
Interesting matchup and experience. Rahal, of course, lives near here, has practiced as much on this track as any man alive. Villeneuve is a rookie here. He's never driven here before. His injuries at Michigan prevented him from practicing earlier in the week, so he is having his first race here ever.
And Villeneuve's in the blue car. Rahal right there in the black and gold car. Rahal has got the Honda engine, for the folks that don't know, and they've been having a lot of problems with it. They're making more horsepower, but it doesn't seem to have much longevity to it. About 175 miles, the engines blow up, and this has really been bothering Bobby Rahal. Going pretty fast now, but does he have enough to get to the end?
On board with Bobby Rahal, just ahead of him, Robbie Gordon. Let's just ride and watch him. Listen to those gear changes.
You can also hear a different sound to Rahal's car. This also gives you an idea how nice the turns and how smooth the track is here, Paul.
Yeah, but boy, you've really got your handful driving this part where you come over that rise and then immediately have to cock it over here. It's almost impossible to see ahead of you very well. Notice here, you're really only looking 100, 150 yards ahead of the car.
You can see that there is some blue sky overhead. There was a very heavy rain came through the area yesterday and then again last night. But the best indication is that this race will run in the clear. And in fact, the blue sky you're looking at to the west there should indicate that we should have a perfect afternoon. The yellow flag is out for Willie T. Ribbs, who pulled off the edge of the course. There you see him. And he's in a fairly precarious position, so the question will be whether or not they'll go full course yellow around the course while they get Willie T. Ribbs restarted. Right now, we're keeping the green flag at the start-finish line and a local yellow only to cover Willie's car.
Yeah, one of the nicest things about this track means they have so much grass and it's really so wide, they can send an emergency vehicle out, grab a car, pull them back, and they can really run on the grass if they have to. Makes it a lot nicer here than like the street courses. It's cement on both sides, and they really can't get the cars back very safely.
There is Paul Tracy's margin after 5 laps here, so he's pulling away from his teammate Al Unser Jr.
A word on Paul Tracy's technique. It's really fascinating. Lap after lap, when he comes through a turn, he accelerates out of it in exactly the same spot, whether his car is pointed right or not. If it's pointed a little wide of the turn, he wrestles it back onto the track. If it's pointed in a little bit, he lets it slide out. But he always opens the throttle at exactly the same point. That's quite different from some of the other drivers.
IndyCar safety vehicle is already there to help Willie T. Ribbs. Now, remember, if they can't get him rolling and under power immediately, then they will consider a full course yellow. So now 6 laps of 83 complete. Paul Tracy picked the lead away from his teammate, pole sitter Al Unser Jr. Back in the Miller Genuine Draft 200 at Mid-Ohio. There is the interval back from the leader of the race, Paul Tracy. He jumped on the green flag, got a good start, and pulled the lead away from his teammate Al Unser Jr. The battle on the course right now is for 5th place. It's between this car, the 88 car, Mauricio Gugelmin, and Michael Andretti. You ride on board with Michael now. That's Gugelmin just ahead down the long straight and winding downhill on some of the elevation changes that makes this track have so much character and is so popular with the drivers.
Gugelmin, of course, made his debut in IndyCar racing in this race last year. Interestingly, they both drive Renault cars. Theoretically, Michael Andretti, the lead driver for the Menard pairing, going for Chip Ganassi, but he's trailing his teammate right now.
That's been happening pretty much all year long. On most cases, Gugelmin has been faster than Michael, and both owned by the same people, but operate as 2 different teams, so one has to wonder sometimes, does Gugelmin have better mechanics than Michael does?
Well, but Michael's been the one that's been able to win the races, 2 of them so far, and he's 3rd in the championship.
Whoa, several cars off.
Mike Groff,
that's Mike Groff and Scott Goodyear, the winner of the Michigan 500 as well, and they have dug in deeply into the sand trap that is designed to slow them down when they come off. They were in a battle for 12th. Just behind Adrian Fernandez. Now here it is again. You see Fernandez has already come through. Groff and Goodyear into the corner.
And Goodyear's in there too deep. He's trying not to hit Groff. He hits him, raised Groff's rear end, clear off the ground, drove underneath him. Of course, spun both cars out and the stand trap. Look at this. It does exactly what it was intended to do. It just stops the cars without any damage. Now, as soon as they get these cars running, other than their contact, they'll be okay.
Mario Andretti and Teo Fabi both had an anxious moment just behind this situation. Corner workers, and by the way, many of the corner workers here, as with most of the road courses, are volunteers who take a week off to come out and help. They're going to try to get those cars prepared so when the IndyCar safety team comes around, they can pull them out. That, of course, was Mike Groff's crew as they're discussing the situation. They're receiving full radio coverage, play-by-play, coming from Mike Groff in the cockpit.
That's what often happens when you get into a turn that's just too deep. You get in, you can't stop. There's somebody in front blocking you. You can't do anything but just hit him.
Mauricio Gugelmin now closes on Nigel Mansell, being pushed by Michael Andretti. So they've closed in and made this a battle for 4th place.
This is a terrific race, and remember, all 3 of these men have extensive Formula One experience. Nigel Mansell on the left of your screen in the black and white car, of course, world champion. Gugelmin, a veteran of 6 or 7 Formula One seasons, and Michael Andretti bringing up the rear, of course, had that season last year for McLaren.
Mansell in the best qualified Lola being challenged now by 2 Renards. Remember, in terms of winning 2, that Michael Andretti scored back-to-back wins here in 1990 and 91.
This is the first year that Renard has come to the Indianapolis car racing scene. And you look at the number 88, and of course right behind Michael Andretti, those are both Renards. The first year for them, they've been developing all year, and they are getting better.
Well, they came out of the box pretty good. Michael Andretti scored the win at the very first race of the season at Surfers Paradise, Australia.
And if you look back beyond this dueling trio here, Robbie Gordon is going to start to get in the picture. He's overcome problems he had earlier in the race, and we're going to start to see him join them. This is terrific racing.
Yeah, Robbie started the race on new brake pads and didn't have a chance to bed them in. So as his brakes get more efficient, he should close his battle too.
As we ride with Michael, listen to his throttle opening. He goes from the throttle all the way close to wide open and then back to close as he hustles it through the turn. He's very, very aggressive with this car.
Paul Tracy remains the leader, then Al Unser Jr., then Emerson Fittipaldi, first, second, and third. Neither of those challenging one another. This is the highest, best battle on the race course. Now you're on board with Robbie Gordon.
Now I just heard to say, Paul, he's working right up on that bunch. It's going to be a 4-car race here in just a minute, because Robbie is really going to cause the other guys to have to drive harder. Mansell is going to be the recipient of all of this, because he's got, look at all the guys behind him.
As we said earlier, covering in the pits is Gary Gerald and Jack Arute. Jack has an update on Gordon.
Well, Paul, it hasn't been a great weekend for Robbie Gordon and his Valvoline team. In fact, he said until this last practice session before the start of the race, they were, to quote Robbie, out to lunch. They made some changes, though, and they seem to have worked well. He radioed in just a couple of laps ago to Derek Walker that the brake pads are actually seated in, and now he feels like all he wants to have in that first pit stop, which we should see about lap 23, take a little bit of front wing out, and he says we can go and try and race to the front.
12 laps are now complete as we take a look at the Ford Electronics telemetry coming off Robbie Gordon's car. And we'll just ride here for a couple minutes as he continues to chase down Michael Andretti, Mauricio Gugelmin, and Nigel Mansell, the 3 cars in front.
Problems that Jack alluded to that Robbie had in practice resulted in his going off the end of the main straight at least twice. I was out there and watched him. You know, he finished second here last year. It was his best performance of the year and the highest placing by the A.J. Foyt team that he was driving for. He's running 7th now, but he's well in touch with Mansell, who's in 4th.
So this battle for 4th place continues. At the same time, Al Unser Jr. is now beginning to close on Paul Tracy, and very soon that should develop as a battle for the lead. They're averaging just over 116 miles an hour. There comes Tracy through, already overhauling some of the slower cars in the field, and Al Unser Jr. is very definitely closing in.
Now keep in mind also, this is 2 1/4 miles around this track. A lot of corners, a lot of racing room. So when you see that it's taking this long to come around and lap the slow car, it's because it's a long ways around this track.
And just remember that in the last few races, Al Unser Jr., who you see right here pursuing Paul Tracy, has gotten faster as the pit stops have approached. It doesn't mean that Paul Tracy necessarily slowing up. It means Little Al probably going faster.
You can't tell the cars apart because of the colors. But number 3 is, of course, Paul Tracy. Little Al is 31.
Mike Groff got restarted, now to the sand trap as well. Dominic Dobson continues to have some problems. Now they're official. They're going to give him a black flag, bring him in for a stop-and-go penalty, because under a local yellow flag, he passed Claude Bourbonnais. So a penalty being assessed for that. In fact, at this very moment, Dominic Dobson reacts to that, comes into the pits. We'll move back in the field. Michael Andretti as he chases Gugelmin.
Remember, these are
here. That's Mansell just ahead.
And remember, these are teammates. The car in front of Michael Andretti is ostensibly his teammate, so you have to be very careful in a situation like this. At the same time, he would love, Michael would, to get to grips with Nigel Mansell.
Well, you may call them teammates, but it is, after all, an interesting situation. Michael wanted to drive for a 1-car team. So when the Gugelmin came on board, it's a different shop. It's not even in the same location, both located in Indianapolis, but they really don't interplay all that much.
Well, in a sense, no, but Mo Nunn is now the engineer on Michael's car, and he was down talking to Gugelmin this morning. They were exchanging laughter. I think a few ideas went back and forth. I think we're starting to see that team come, and I know what you mean. They're really the same car owner, Chip Ganassi. That is the correct way to express it. But I think they're starting to exchange information in a way that they had not before.
All right, now approaching one of the key passing areas on the course as Nigel Mansell tries to protect position. So does Gugelmin as they line up almost 3 abreast. None of them get it done.
And remember, these cars have mirrors. They know what the guy behind him is thinking about doing. When a guy's going down in a turn like that and he sees the guy coming up on him on the right side, he knows he's going to attempt to pass. So he'll naturally scoot over a little bit to try to block him, even though it isn't technically blocking, just be in the way a little bit.
Just good racing. Michael Andretti continues to thrash at the back of Mauricio Gugelmin's car. Look alongside Gugelmin. Here comes Robbie Gordon.
Well, we just got through saying Robbie Gordon's going to be up there in a few minutes. And my golly, he was.
This is exactly what it's like. I've been privileged, Bobby, you have too, I think, to race on this course. This is exactly the feeling you have when you're right out in the cockpit.
All of a sudden, the appearance of Gordon in this battle has made it a 4-way fight. And we all know that Gordon is very racy and will do everything he can to get through.
You know, in that particular case, Michael didn't see. Michael was so intent on Gugelmin right there in the 88 car in front of him that he didn't see Gordon coming up. So it was a total surprise when he saw the car alongside. Very much the same as we saw in the camera shot. Yeah,
and that happens sometimes when you're trying to attack a driver. You'll drop back for a split second to get a better run at it. And if there's somebody right behind you, then you're in trouble.
All right, 16 laps are now complete of the scheduled 83 laps distance. Paul Tracy is still the leader. We've got some great racing going on at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We'll be right back. Then, but broken off from contact at the moment is Mauricio Gugelmin and Nigel Mansell.
And just so everybody knows, when they watch on this beautiful racetrack, all the black rubber marks, if you wonder why the guys aren't running in them, keep in mind there's many different classes of racing. The Indy Lights just ran today. So a lot of the race cars make the marks. These guys, the Indy cars, will have their own group, Paul.
That is one of the nice things about Mid-Ohio. It is a very long weekend with lots of racing going on. The Indy Lights, the Formula Atlantics have been here. There's a whole number of cars of racing, and also it's a wonderful campground. Look at the line, Bobby, that Robbie Gordon takes.
Yes, in fact, we just noticed that a little while ago. Robbie, that's getting up into the keyhole turn where you really need to get off of that turn fast, because what do you have? A real long straightaway here. So he's decided he goes in on the outside where there's not so much rubber, maybe not as slippery for him, cuts across to the inside, comes out of the straightaway. He thinks faster. And he doesn't look too bad either.
He's doing it in a couple of the other turns too, not quite as obviously. I talked to his mom the other day. She said Robbie loves this season. He loves the car. He loves the Derek Walker team. He just, of course, extended his contract for another couple of years with them. He said, you know, Mom, I would drive for nothing. I just have so much fun doing it. Of course, he's making a lot of money doing it, and a lot of people would pay him a lot of money to do what he does because he does it so well. But he just loves this sport.
And he is fun to watch. You saw a moment ago as he came off the corner, gave the back end a big pitch and slid it around. He is spectacular.
And you know, we're starting to see Bobby Rahal catch up just a little bit too. The black and yellow car right there on the left of your screen, that's Bobby Rahal. No one, as I said earlier, knows this track better than Bobby Rahal.
All right, we're watching now Jimmy Vasser and Teo Bobby.
Well, they're really going at it tooth and toe now. That's up the keyhole turn. They're coming off here now. Long straightaway, good 180 miles an hour.
Well, you know, this could lead to trouble. Remember at Portland, Vasser left the door so wide open, and Michael Andretti came in and they got in contact. Vasser has a way of taking a very wide approach into the turn, a little like Robbie Gordon. And Bobby is an aggressive overtaker. This could be a volatile situation. I certainly hope not, but it could be.
So Teo Bobby, for the moment, was in attack mode on Jimmy Vasser. Vasser seems well aware of him now and is beginning to pull just slightly away.
That's 10th and 11th place right there. You can see how competitive or how hard they're racing clear back into the pack right now. Such a beautiful day, 70 degrees outside. One of the nicest days I could ever believe for a good motor race.
Remember, Bobby in the yellow car, the Pennzoil car there, had his great victory driving for Porsche here a few years ago. He was on the pole. led the race and won the race.
All right, we're going to stay here for a moment with Teo Fabi. They come up through the keyhole as he continues his pursuit of Jimmy Vasser and see whether or not, as they get down the long back straight here, they'll have an opportunity to close again and do battle. If you're going to pass down at the bottom of this hill is the best place on the circuit to do it, but Teo Fabi is not in position to do so.
These guys come off of that turn up there at the top end in second gear. They go clear down through sixth gear, time to get to the bottom. So you can see that's really hard to get a run on a guy. You have to do it at the top end up there.
We come forward as we take a look at Michael Andretti and Mauricio Gugelmin continue their fight. This is a fight for fifth place. There's Bobby Rahal. There is that battle now led by Nigel Mansell, and Michael Andretti and Robbie Gordon are at it again. Oh, this is terrific.
What happens is Michael starts working on Gugelmin, and Robbie Gordon says, wow, I might as well get in there and mix it up a little bit because it slows the two guys down a little bit. They have to get a little bit protective, but it makes it easier for Gordon.
Well, and Bobby, remember you made the point that Gordon goes so wide into the turn. That's giving him very high exit speed. So when the other two drivers get slowed up, he's coming off like a rocket. That's why he's getting up inside Michael.
Now you can see Michael doing the same thing right there. He's out wide. Now watch him come clear down to the curb. The idea being is you have to go somewhere other than where the other cars are in order to go faster.
Well, here's a key area now for all of them as they come slamming down the long back straight. Michael looks to the inside, tries to outbrake Gugelmin as they go into the corner. Gugelmin holds him off. He's not going to have any of it. Boy, that's some great driving on both drivers' parts.
Yes, and that's the same place that Tracy passed little Al going in at the start of the race. They got the green flag, and when you come out of that particular turn, you can stay high, and that's what Gugelmin was able to do to Michael there.
Notice that this battle is letting Nigel Mansell slip just a little bit away. He's kept the pressure on. He's now got a fraction of a second over this battling pair. When you really race hard against somebody else, you basically lose time to your other competitors.
Robbie Gordon very definitely making up time coming in under braking. Acceleration against Michael seems about equal. Rahal very definitely closing in. Just a second ago from Robbie Gordon's onboard camera. Look at that.
There he had that exit speed off that turn. Decided not to press the issue.
Very upset, too, because
yeah, get over, get out of my way, Michael.
Yeah, but Gordon's driving a real smart race because he's not letting his emotions drive the car. He's being smart.
But he is very definitely keeping the pressure on Michael Andretti. We're at lap 24. We expect the first pit stops to occur in about 4 laps. Paul Tracy leads it, followed by Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Leader Al Unser sitting about 1.7 seconds back, has been for some time now, but they're all beginning to anticipate pit stops, which should begin within the next 2 laps. But Paul Tracy, who picked up the lead of the race on the green flag from the pole sitter and track record holder Al Unser Jr., and since that time has been setting a record pace at 114.8 miles an hour. The race record is held by Emerson Fittipaldi from 1992 at 107.3. We have had no full course yellows. That's somewhat unusual for here. It's been a nice clean race with a lot of battles going on, but nothing has changed in the top of the order since we've left you.
A lot of changing is probably going to start happening about pit stop time, and my calculations are right. Tracy should be the first one that comes into the pits. Then after that, it's going to be a lot of cars coming in. Then we're going to see things start mixing up a little bit and seeing more what the personality of the race is going to look like.
Paul Tracy just got around Jacques Villeneuve, so he comes up through the field. Let's go back to the 4th place car, Nigel Mansell. You're on board with him now. He's expected in shortly into the pits. He's got a nice clear run ahead of him. As he turns down on the backside of the course, will climb the hill into the carousel, and then make his decision to veer to the right and continue on, or to the left and to head into the pit road. And he avoids the pit road, so he continues on. Nigel Mansell running in 4th place. Lola, Mansell drives a Lola. Lola scored their first win this year at the Michigan 500. Of course, that was Scott Goodyear. The Newman Haas Lolas have not yet scored a victory this year. This is the Honda-powered car of Bobby Rahal. You ride on the nose in 8th position. That's Robbie Gordon just ahead.
All right, now supposedly the Honda engine power.
And Paul Tracy, the leader, makes a stop. Gary Gerald.
Tracy, the leader, comes in. They were going to stagger the stops, but Al Unser Jr. has also come in as well. They'll wait 2 laps for Emerson Fittipaldi. this morning in the warm-up session. Tracy had one off-course excursion. He's up the hill, lighting up the tires. We've got him under 14 seconds, and he beat Unser out. Jr. on the pit road with one car between them.
So the two Penske cars, Al Unser Jr. and Paul Tracy, led by Paul Tracy, comes out of the pits.
Now, it's very rare. There's Emerson coming out right behind there. And it's very rare that Penske brings both up in at the same time. So that means they had a little bit of question through their telemetry. The telemetry is how they send the computer information from the cars to the pit. Probably said they were both a little bit close on fuel. So brought them both in at the same time.
And of course, with that maneuver, Emerson Fittipaldi picks up the lead of the race. Though Paul Tracy got across the line ahead of Al Unser Jr. on the last lap in the pits, so he was scored as the leader of the race coming out of the pits. Now we're on board with Nigel, who again, they thought he was going to come in on the last lap. He most certainly should be due on this lap.
I went to the local go-kart track the other night just to check it out and to take a couple of laps. Who should be there but Nigel Mansell with his family? He gave me a little grin. He was hoping to be incognito, but he had a Kmart hat on, so I knew it was him even at a distance before I noticed the driving style, which let's say was a little bit better than the other customers at the time. When he got out of the car, I jumped right into the one he'd been driving. It's not every day you get to drive the same car that Nigel Mansell does.
And I don't think he's very incognito with a Kmart hat on either, so.
Yeah, but how fast were you in Nigel's car?
I'm not saying. I don't want to disparage Nigel. I know he's had a tough year, and I don't want to add insult to injury.
I'll tell you what, one of the great things about him is his love for his children and the fact that all weekend they camped out at the track here, and as soon as the practice is over, he grabs the kids and they off to a movie or off to the go-kart track. Well, Nigel Mansell now makes his turn down the pit road. They are all the way at the other end. There's his pit, and Jack Aruta's waiting.
And behind Nigel Mansell comes Michael Andretti, Robbie Gordon. This will be a fast stop for Mansell because they've elected not to make any major changes on his car. Mario Andretti will also find his way to pit road. Meanwhile, Michael Andretti getting service for fuel and just 4 tires. Robbie Gordon, on the other hand, they have radioed in that they are going to, and there's a problem on Michael Andretti's car. The jack actually stayed hung up. Michael lit up the tires, and now they're going to have to refire his car. Robbie Gordon is away. Mario Andretti is away. And Michael is very slow getting out. A costly miscue for the Ganassi team.
So the stops are routine for all but Michael Andretti. Emerson Fittipaldi, the leader, is now in, Gary.
Not anticipating any changes. He inherited the lead after his teammates came in for routine service. Emerson blips the throttle. Here he goes.
Emerson, the cars here have limited slip rear end, just the opposite of what they do on oval track. That's the reason you saw one tire spin and the other one not spinning so much, all because it's a limited slip. Remember, one rear tire will turn faster than the other.
Emerson, of course, has won the last 2 races here at Mid-Ohio, IndyCar races, and won 3 altogether.
Mauricio Gugelmin, 4th place car, is in the pits. This will conclude the stops for all of the leaders of the race. So Gugelmin, again, this appears to be fairly routine for him too. The crew taking their time, doing a nice job, and away he rolls. There's Raul Boisel.
Now there's a guy right there, the Boisel car. That's a Dick Simon, the Duracell car there that has the electric shift in it. One of the few cars that have electric shift. Now this is quite different, Paul, in that the drivers touch the gear shift and the things shift automatically. It's close to an automatic transmission. The officials, of course, are looking at it, trying to determine, is that something that violates the rules, or if the guys just outsmarted them?
Look at Nigel now as he charges on Mauricio Gugelmin. They're battling side by side down that long back straight. Bobby Rahal is right there, too, and Mike Croft just behind Rahal.
There's one of those shifters in that car of Nigel Mansell's, too. It's been in there all season. Look at this. A bid by Rahal on the outside of Gugelmin. No.
Rahal, who probably knows this course better than any other driver, it's his home course. Let's just listen.
Sound as we hear the onboard cameras or hear the noise of the other onboard cameras, the other cars. We're hearing the Honda. It fires like your passenger car that you drive on the street. It's a V8 engine. or as opposed to the Cosworth Ford cars or the Elmore engines, they fired 2 pistons at one time, what they call a 180-degree shaft. There's a different sound, and we always hear that in the Hondas.
Right after the pit stops, they line up with Paul Tracy. We're on Michael Andretti right now. That's Jacques Villeneuve just to the inside. Another car line off his left front. Look how close, and Villeneuve finally forces his way ahead. And that's an ongoing battle for 9th place. But look how crowded it is there and how close they've gotten.
And that's the one turn that Michael had a chance to pass him on the outside. That's the turn that it's easy to pass on the outside because that's where the groove is.
Michael Andretti going to try Villeneuve again.
And remember the emotions of Michael Andretti at this point. He'd been running solidly in contention for 4th place. Troubles in the pits. He's got to feel excited, anxious, wants to get back into the swing of things as fast as he can. And suddenly he comes up Jacques Villeneuve, who's one of the best young drivers in the business.
You're on board with the 10th place car, Michael Andretti. Teo Fabi is just behind him and continuing to worry him. Now they have the slower car of Hiro Matsushita just ahead of them that they will all have to handle up. And look at that line of traffic that is just behind.
You know that a guy like Matsushita there in the yellow and blue car right ahead, there he moved to the outside. But you know he's got to feel uncomfortable with all these hot dogs right behind him.
Michael Andretti, Teo Fabi just behind him. Then Mario Andretti runs in 12th. Jimmy Vasser is 13th, Raul Boesel 14th, Scott Sharp is 15th. Michael tries to the inside under braking. Villeneuve stays in position. Michael gets him.
Michael squeezed him out a little bit, almost onto the grass. Villeneuve almost hit the grass now. If one tire hits that grass, he's off like a rock getting in a slingshot.
Boy, I'll tell you, when Michael was hired for Formula One by Ron Dennis of McLaren, he hired him because he was one of the great overtakers in the business, and you just saw a really gutsy pass.
But look just behind them. Paul Tracy, the leader of the race, is closing, and in fact there are 12 cars on the leader lap as Paul Tracy cuts his way up through the field. We'll be right back. It's a racing afternoon here on ABC Sports. We will continue after this with racing's ultimate test of skill. 12 of the world's best and identically prepared cars go head-to-head in the International Race of Champions, the run that determines the championship. And let me tell you, it's a great race. We're back on board with 6th place Bobby Rahal. His pit crew, Jim Prescott and the guys, really helped him out on the stop, moved him up 2 positions during his pit stop. For a further update, though, let's go down to the pits and Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, the Rahal team led by Carl Hogan made the first maybe major gamble of this afternoon. They went with a 4-tire change, but they didn't take on a full 40-gallon load of fuel. They got about 35 gallons in. As soon as the tire change was complete, they took him off the jacks and sent him on his way. He gained 2 spots out of the pits with a 10.4-second pit stop. Interesting strategy.
Well, that strategy could backfire on them, but by the same token, they just think that staying up near the front is more important. Remember, the reliability of the Honda, even though it's running better, has been worse. And the big problem there is they don't have what they call a girdle down underneath the engine. The cylinder block, or the engine itself, is part of the frame on all of these cars. And the Honda engine is apparently twisting, so therefore the main bearings in the engine have a tendency to go out occasionally. They're changing this. They just don't have it done yet.
In other words, Bobby, here's an issue that doesn't just relate to horsepower or breathing or RPM. It's a function of how the engine is when it's in the car, the kind of thing you can't really test on a dynamometer.
Actually part of the frame, Sam, and you can't test anything like that on the dynamometer. But it's something apparently Honda doesn't have the experience in as opposed to Cosworth or the Elmore engine.
Yeah, but I keep saying to you, Bobby, when Honda gets it right, look out. Remember what they did in Formula One. We
all know that Honda has the capabilities of being very fast.
Go back in the field now to the onboard camera of Raul Boesel, who again, as Bobby Unser mentioned, is driving with the that new selector that has been available to some of the other Lola teams in the year, but he didn't get the full test on it last week that he wanted to. There's his onboard telemetry. He runs 23rd right now.
You can
13th.
watch the shifts, the RPM when he shifts. there's just hardly any change. And naturally it comes down, but there's no lag because the shifting is instantaneous. For example, he doesn't even on the Duracell car lift off the gas when he shifts. He just merely puts the pedal to the floorboard and leaves it. Now, of course, when he goes into the turns, they have to slow down a little bit there. That won't work.
He was consistently fast all through practice, but when the came time to qualify, he had trouble with that shifting mechanism, Bobby, which is why he qualified 17th and is still working his way slowly through the field.
And what happened, Sam, they figured out his elbow was hitting this new little secret trick that makes it shift electrically.
All right, let's go forward now in the field. The 7th place battle is Robbie Gordon. Just ahead of him is Guzman. Rahal has been in this fight as 2. There's Rahal just behind, so we're looking at the battle 5th, 6th, 7th. Gordon able to get around Rahal. Now beginning to attack Mauricio Guzman. Guzman has had 4 top 10s this year, all of them on road courses. That's as would be expected, considering his Formula One experience. Though last year Nigel Mansell did the reverse of that at this point in the season, scoring most of his points on the ovals. Next week the IndyCars are in New Hampshire at Loudon, which is the fast oval there and is the last true oval of the year. They'll also race Nazareth, but most of the teams approach that the way they do a road course.
Just look at the difference that Robbie Gordon has, the different concepts he has on how he takes the turn as opposed to the other cars. I've been watching this all day, and it's totally unorthodox and different, but it seems to be working pretty good for him.
Bobby, you know, I just thought of something. You know, Robbie's experience in off-road racing, that's exactly the way they take the turns there, too. They go in very deep and then crank the car.
I think one of the things that I like about Robbie's driving, Sam, is the fact that he doesn't just copy what other guys do.
Right.
He always is continually trying something different, and sometimes it works.
There's some new telemetry for you, kind of a heads-up display, a suggestion of a number of the fans that this might be one other way to take a look at the telemetry and still let you see all of the race course. Heads-up display just like you use in a fighter jet today. Gear indicated across the bottom, lateral G's on the top, RPMs to the left. A little bit of a red telltale to tell you what the peak was.
The RPMs quit at what, 12.5?
Yeah.
Actually, they didn't make that graph high enough.
Not quite high.
They're going up to 13.6.
Well, let me tell you something. The teams are real sensitive about how precise that electronic graph is. You can get just a little too much information when you got a brain like yours, Bobby, trying to figure it out. So that's a little bit of a coarse measurement.
What do you figure, Bobby? 13,000, 13.3?
13.6, Sam.
13.6, okay.
So in the front of the field, it remains Paul Tracy, who, with the exception of a lap taken over by Emerson Fittipaldi on pit stops, has led all the way as we approach the halfway point at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, where now Al Unser Jr. closes right down on his teammate, the leader of the race, Paul Tracy. They flash down the pit straight, and Paul Tracy is trying to signal Adrian Fernandez, who started 14th and now runs in 8th. And is just ahead of him on the course, that he's there and get out of his way. He's apparently somewhat worried by the presence of Little Al just behind him. Look at Tracy. Oh, they're very close together. Tracy gets under. Al Unser Jr. gets caught. Fernandez apparently unaware of the position of Little Al.
That was a brilliant but daring move by Paul Tracy. Now Little Al has got to follow suit if he's going to stay in touch as they approach the end of that long straight. Here they come.
Well, Adrian having a lot more notice there. Little Al is coming by because of the fact that Tracy just came by, but I don't think Adrian saw him coming up in his mirrors. I think that was totally unexpected.
Here it is again as they come down into the corner. This is at the keyhole.
Adrian's in wide right there. He got in too deep. That's probably what he's trying to do. Look at the inside tire come up Fernandez's car. Now he's turning down. He turns down almost on Tracy. Here's Little Al. He'd like to get in there, but Fernandez comes right on down to the curb. No way for Little Al to get through.
You know, it's absolutely amazing to me how a guy like Paul Tracy or Little Al, but Paul Tracy most visibly can go flying into a corner, still under braking all the way through the corner until he accelerates.
Well, he took a gamble on that one because we saw Fernandez almost came down on him. In fact, if it hadn't been for Adrian going into the turn a little bit too fast, he would have surely come down on him, Paul.
See, and it's the kind of thing that you'd been hard-pressed to blame Adrian Fernandez, because for 2-3 laps, he's seeing Paul Tracy back there, back there, back there. All of a sudden, he goes from 4 car lengths back to right alongside of him.
Damn, he should have let him go. He was being lapped.
I agree.
It's a courtesy thing. That's what the rules say you're supposed to do.
Robbie Gordon tries to make on a move on Mauricio Gugelmin for 5th again. Look at him as he looks to the outside. Theoretically, you can't even move there.
Now, it's a really light place. That's where the cars go over a hill like a big hump, and it's a hard place to pass. I was surprised that Robbie was trying that one, because believe it or not, the cars will absolutely get airborne. Then they go off camber as you go around to the next turn.
And what is that like? It's like off-road racing, gentlemen. You're so busy shaking hands making this great point. It's exactly like what Robbie does in the Baja 1000 and everything. He's an expert at driving a car that's very lightly loaded and is turning in very unusual ways.
Now here they're coming up behind Bobby Rahal. Big difference in horsepower between the Honda and the Elmores right there. Let's see how they do with lapping Bobby here.
The leader's closing on 7th place, Bobby Rahal, and then they're lined up in front of him, 4th through 7th. Nigel Gugelmin, Robbie Gordon, and Bobby Rahal.
Now Tracy tried the same thing there with Rahal that he did with Fernandez, but he couldn't get his nose up underneath him.
Right, because Rahal was tucked down tight into the turn, and Rahal knows how to defend himself here. Doesn't look as if he's going to choose to do it. There's Little Al.
Very precarious as Little Al looks to the inside as they come around Rahal. It is not going to be easy for them as they come up through the remainder of this group. They're all involved in battles on their own, and I suspect Gordon is going to be very tough to pass.
Well, it also makes it easier sometimes. If you can take your guy like Little Al can take Tracy, box him in behind somebody that's slower, it makes it easy for Little Al to pass, and that's obviously what he was trying to do there.
Rahal running in 7th, of course. It's a bitter pill to have to let people that are lapping you by, but he made the smart decision. You see him there. He really is a master of careful driving and yet driving extremely fast. Bobby Rahal very rarely makes a mistake in an IndyCar.
Oh, he's a tactician all the way. Look at that line as they head through the first turn at the end of the pit straight now.
And you notice Little Al really putting the pressure on. Remember, he's trying to box Tracy in. Any place that Tracy goes, he wants to box
Here
him
comes
in.
Gordon again, right alongside Gugelmin, forces Gugelmin offline into the outside, and Tracy and Little Al come through as well. Now Little Al sets up to make a move on Paul Tracy. He's tucked in right behind. He goes to the inside this time. Now Little Al sweeps to the outside on the corner, and Paul Tracy takes the inside line.
Now the next turn is to the left, so if you can get to the left of your adversary, you can get him on the next bend.
Now this is sometimes, remember, what makes passing easy.
Gordon makes the move on Nigel Mansell now. They come off the corner side by side. And Robbie Gordon has the line and the position there. But here is Paul Tracy as he screams down behind Nigel Mansell, who now runs in 4th place.
It's awesome. Just think, he's absolutely lapping Mansell. This is something we hardly ever see.
And Mansell pulled well aside. A terrific moment for Gordon, because having gone from dueling with Mansell, he's now a 2.5 seconds ahead of him.
And Nigel is smart. He doesn't want any part of that battle. All it can do is get him in trouble.
That is a terrific lap for young Robbie Gordon.
And Bobby Rahal slowing down. Rahal, who was running in 8th place.
You can just about bet he's had another main bearing problem in the engine. Remember what I said, the engine is part of the frame and it's twisting in this car. Obviously, he's going to have some engine problems. He's had already a problem yesterday, very similar. Really a shame for the Honda people. I know they're working hard. It's the same terrible thing for Rahal. There's nobody at this track that's probably any better than Rahal as a driver.
A part line out on the track. It could be off Parker Johnstone's car. It could be off one of the Marlboro cars as well. There it is. For that matter, it could be off Mark Smith's car. We'll keep an eye on all of them. Bobby Rahal already out of the car. So what we heard, it sounded terminal.
Great stop. That was
Hogan.
Look at him. And look at him thank Jim Prescott for a great stop. Let's get an update. Here's Gary Gerald.
Boy, the disappointment that this team has endured. They know it was going to be tough on this learning curve for the Honda program, but they've gone through so many engines. There was a stretch where they lost 7 engines in 3 races. They lost 1 yesterday. Here they are now out of the race. Again, it's the engine. Carl Hogan, bitter disappointment. You saw Bobby thanking his crew for a great race car, but man, the frustration, it just oozes out of this pit, Paul.
Well, that piece of debris that we saw on the course, the indication is that's off of Mark Smith's car. Apparently, he got in contact with Parker Johnstone, and both of those cars are in the pit right now. Parker's changing their front wings on his car, and Mark Smith, it looks like they're going over that car for just a routine stop. It's really difficult to determine. I suspect that part is probably off of Parker Johnstone's. Back now on Michael Andretti, that's Adrian Fernandez just ahead of him. Fernandez runs in 7th place.
He's really been doing good at this race so far. He's been fast in all the practice sessions, fairly good in qualifications, and he's kind of new at this racetrack. Fernandez, of course, is from Mexico.
He is new at this racetrack. He's having his first shot at it. The last couple of races, Adrian Fernandez has started to really race the biggest names in IndyCar racing. He's a very calm man. He knew it was going to take a while to get everything functioning. And I said, what is the difference now between how you race and how you race back in Australia at the beginning of the year, which seems now so long ago? He said, I'm just not any faster at the wheel. I'm just so much more aware of strategy, tactics, what's going on in my car, how to use the pit work.
Adrian Fernandez again uses that high outside line as Gugelmin gets sound on the inside. Let's go to the pits once again. Gary Gerald is with Bobby Rahal.
Bobby, we were talking about the learning curve. You knew it was going to be tough. The frustration factor, however, so many engines. How are you and this team dealing with it?
Well, probably not very well right now. You know, it's getting worse. It's not getting any better. You know, you can't get an engine to last 140 miles. It's pretty bad shape, and it's just depressing. You know,
So what do you do?
The car is handling beautifully. I just slower than molasses on the straightaways and off the corners, and yet you can stay right with them. But you know, I think we got to get it where we can last 200 miles. So far, we're not even close to that.
What about next year? Will you still have Honda as the power plant? Will you stay with this program?
Oh, I think you'll have to stay tuned for that one.
All right, Bob. Thank you.
Well, that's bad news that we're hearing from Rahal. Of course, you know, this is his hometown track also. Disappointment here has to be more so than it would be anywhere other than maybe Indianapolis.
Yeah, but that answer may be very indicative of what may happen next year. Let's go back to the lead of the race. Unser Jr. continues his pursuit of Paul Tracy. And little Al is just staying glued to the back end of that car. And they maintain up. Tail Fabi off the race course and into the gravel pit. They've been maintaining about the same interval back from Robbie Gordon as they have for the past couple laps. Gordon just running right in front of the leaders.
Well, we knew that Robbie Gordon was going to do an adjustment, as Sam said earlier, during his first pit stop, and he's obviously has done that adjustment, and he's going fast. You're staying ahead. That's Robbie Gordon just to the left of the blue and white car. Tracy right behind him there. Little Al right behind him. Little Al, of course, is going to keep the pressure on Tracy. All he can do.
That interval of nearly half a second between first and second is pretty much what they have been for the last several laps. They're averaging 113.5 miles an hour, which is a race record to this point. And we have run the race now down to 32 laps to the finish without any full course yellows at all.
You know what's unusual about this, Paul and Bobby? How rarely we see Paul Tracy under pressure from behind. Usually when he's ahead, he's just pulling ahead. It's very rare to see somebody right behind him lap after lap.
So it's Paul Tracy who is the dominant power in this race, and he continues to be pursued by Al Unser Jr. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back at the Miller Genuine Draft 200, the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, on a beautiful, cool afternoon. You ride with Robbie Gordon, who's had more than a thrilling afternoon just a few moments ago. Look at him as they're coming through here.
Boy, he almost spun that thing out. You see the rear end? Must have jumped out 3 feet on him right there. Almost lost it. That kid drives all the time.
Here it is in slow motion. The safety team trying to get Tail Fabi off. Look at Robbie.
Watch here. Brake too much of the rear. The rear end jumped way out. Left a big black rubber mark. And still only lost one position to Paul Tracy, who's on his right, the red and white car there.
The Rahal Hogan team has more trouble. Mike Croft has pulled to a stop just inside the carousel. Apparently his day is done. No indication what went wrong with this car to get it off the race course. Back on board with Robbie Gordon now. And we'll go down through the running order after 53 laps. Paul Tracy continues to be the power in this race.
And Robbie Gordon officially should have gone down 1 lap right there, Paul, which is something he really didn't want to do.
Let's go to the pits and Jack Arute.
Well, even if you're being lapped, gentlemen, you don't like to be lapped under the caution, and that seems to be your complaint, Derek Walker, about the leader.
Well, from the television coverage there, we can see he passed under that yellow flag. That's
He being Paul Tracy, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a stop and go. I don't know why they haven't brought him in.
We don't know either, but they have talked to the kart officials, and it's got to be their call, as you know.
Well, I guess that's something, Jack, we might have overlooked from up here, because I didn't see that.
Well, it's there. The question is whether or not it was a deliberate pass or as a result of this action. Now watch it here. Robbie loses it, comes to the outside. Tracy maintains his momentum, but Robbie has slowed. Now what does he do? It's not a position, it's a lap.
If I was an official, I would have to call that as not Paul Tracy's fault. I mean, Gordon, for all practical purposes, within a quarter of a second could either have lost it or crashed his car, and he was certainly headed in that direction. The fact he saved it was just a tribute to his driving abilities.
Plus, you could see that Paul Tracy locked his wheels up trying to slow down.
Nigel Mansell in fourth with Adrian Fernandez just behind him. Adrian stayed with him. Now he's looking to pass him.
Mansell's obviously having problems today.
Nonetheless, it's part of a young driver's experience to battle with the greats and to realize that you can link your name with theirs. You can say, hey, I raced Nigel Mansell. That's what's
Mansell's
happening
gone
now.
too slow in the turns, Sam. Adrian Fernandez running too fast. There's not that much difference. So Mansell has got some sort of a problem.
Yeah, he does.
This, though, is a fight for position with Michael Andretti closing down on them. 5th, 6th, and 7th. You're on board the 7th place car. Michael.
You can see Fernandez right ahead there with the red rear wing, and Mansell struggling with his car ahead.
Well, he's struggling in the turns. He's getting down the straightaway pretty quick, as you can see, but having a terrible time in the turns, and it seems to be more of the slower turns as opposed to the fast ones.
Michael Andretti now closing on Fernandez. A battle for 6th place. Indications are that the officials have now decided that they will give a stop-and-go penalty to the leader of the race, Paul Tracy, and also to Mario Andretti. So that coming down the lines from the officials in race control. Michael just got in contact there. Boy, look at Michael losing all the way. There's that black flag ordering Paul Tracy to come into the pits for a stop-and-go penalty. He has 3.8 seconds on the 2nd place car of Unser Jr. So when he comes in, he will lose the lead. What do you think, Bobby?
Yes, I think 1st place, I think it's wrong, but by the same token, it's really going to hurt Paul an awful lot. If the officials see it that way, it was a marginal thing at the best. So if it happens that way, he'll just be screaming like heck when the race is over.
What a difference a year makes. Last year, Paul Tracy won 5 races and Al Unser Jr. only 1. This year, Al Unser has won 5 and Paul Tracy only 1.
Well, Paul Tracy, and what I think, Bobby, you viewed as he did everything he could to slow down and keep from passing Robbie. Now they're waiting for him to come into the pits answering the black flag, Gary Gerald. Gary?
Paul, they've laid out for him. Emerson Fittipaldi just completed his stop in 14.6 seconds. They made no changes to the setup on the race car. But Tracy, they're going to service him, and I'm wondering, can you do this on a stop and go? Can this serve as a full pit stop?
No, you remember that was the controversy a year ago in Australia. Nigel Mansell did it, Gary.
Yeah, well, here's Tracy now, and they are giving him the service.
Oh, you watch the smoke off his brakes, Gary.
Now, will they hold him or will they make him send him out and bring him back? That's what I'm wondering right now. Clive Howell is up on the wall talking on the radio to Tracy as they wait for the fueling to be complete. Now he's rolling. Boy, did he smoke the tires getting out of there. Let's go to Jack.
Gary, we checked with Billy Camphausen as we await Robbie Gordon's pit stop. Now, here's what Unser has a choice to do. I mean, Tracy, he must take his service, but now he has 3 laps to come back in and take his stop and go. This is from IndyCar official Billy Camphausen.
And Jack Arute, Michael Andretti now comes in to make his stop.
And we'll wait and see if Michael has the same problem with the rear jack that he had the last time. It took a long time for the air to come out. It seems to be a nominal stop right now, cleaning off the front radiators, taking on a full load of fuel. We'll watch the onboard jacks to see if they operate correctly this time. They do. And he's away.
Well, if you wanted to watch the onboard jacks at the rear of the car, that camera was well placed.
What a camera.
So Michael Andretti in and out from 6th position.
You see what they're doing? They're taking their tear-offs off their visors when they leave the pit.
Here's the leader in. Gary Gerold's there.
There's little Al tearing his off.
In the very first pit box, he ducks in very tightly, and then he'll go up the road. He, of course, cannot exceed that 80-mile-per-hour speed limit. They changed the engine on this car after the morning warm-up session. There was a telltale warning sign. He's away in under 15 seconds.
Little Al on the roll. Fittipaldi, you see, coming in behind him. Here comes Robbie Gordon screaming out as well. Any time now, Paul Tracy is going to have to react to that black flag.
Now remember, Robbie Gordon comes down 1 lap behind Little Al. That's the reason he was trying so hard a while ago not to get lapped. But when they leave the pits, for example, Little Al right there, as we saw, it won't go over like 80 miles an hour because they have the onboard computers on the car set where the engine won't run any faster than that. That's modern science coming at us again.
So Paul Tracy, at the same time that Little Al comes in, acknowledges the black flag. He is in and out. He's taken the penalty. But Al Unser Jr. takes the advantage by a full 10 seconds over Tracy and picks up the lead of the race. Very costly decision by the officials.
That's the problem. Stop and go penalties don't sound too bad, but when you're on a road course where you hardly ever have a yellow all the way around, stop and go penalty can be a very disaster thing.
So Al Unser Jr., with 24 laps to go, is now the leader of the race. The great battle for the lead has been broken up by that penalty, and Robbie Gordon continues to be the most spectacular driver on the race course in the Miller Genuine Draft 200. We'll be back. We're back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Tomorrow night, ABC Sports brings you a matchup so big even Texas couldn't hold it. From Mexico City, the two-time defending Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys take on the Houston Oilers in a primetime preseason special. Live coverage begins at 9 o'clock Eastern. And here at Mid-Ohio, 62 laps complete. Al Unser Jr. leads the race by 8.5 seconds over the man that dominated the early part until a penalty, and that was Paul Tracy. The third Penske car, Emerson Fittipaldi, is in third place at the moment. The controversy, though, that stems around a penalty assessment because of this situation. Now, there's a yellow flag standing way down the race course. Robbie Gordon gets offline because he's slowing behind Dominic Dobson's car. Paul Tracy locks the brakes, gets alongside, but his momentum is carrying him on. And Robbie Gordon drops back a position. As a result, actually is lapped at that point. As a result, they assessed a black flag penalty on Paul Tracy and brought him in for a stop and go. So there is some question here. Let's go to Jack Arute, who maybe can add to it.
Well, Paul, this has been ongoing for almost 18 months now. The question is, when you see the yellow flag at a station, should a driver then slow down? The rule reads that you are supposed to hold your position and not overtake any other cars. Now, you guys were trying to determine whether maybe it was Tracy's momentum that carried him by. Well, that was brought up in a previous drivers' meeting. And the answer was, if that should happen, let the guy back around. No harm, no foul. That's not what occurred this time. That is why Tracy was brought in. According to Billy Camphausen, lately they've been pushing the outside of the envelope in the rule, so they had to come in and slap someone's hand. Let's check in with Gary Gerold.
Well, Jack, they have monitors, of course, along pit road, and members of the Penske team. Now, we're in Al Unser Jr.'s pit at the moment. Richard Buck, his crew chief, he took a look at it on the monitor, and he said, boy, that's a real close, tough call. Roger Penske elected not to look at the replay. He was inclined in some other business, and he said, talk to Richard. So we talked to Richard, and he just says, that's a tough call. Keep in mind, his guy, Al Unser Jr., however, is now in the lead.
And, of course, when Paul Tracy went into that corner, Al Unser Jr. was right on his rear wing, pushing him as hard as he can, Bobby.
But, you know, on Tracy's behalf, you have to look at it this way also. Let's take an extreme expanded case on that. That it comes around and he spins out and makes a complete U-turn and goes back around. Is he still supposed to let him by later on? I just disagree with that call.
All right, we have a full course yellow now. Claude Bourbonnais is off the edge of the course, and they can't get him started without putting that vehicle on the course. So now, for the first time today, yellow flags fly all around, and the PPG pace car will come out in front of Al Unser. Tonight on ABC, the laughs are on you with America's Funniest Hour. Then Dean Stockwell guest stars on Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Then it's Slime Time. Bill Murray, Sigourney Weaver, and Dan Aykroyd star in Ghostbusters 2, all tonight on ABC. This week, the United States Auto Club, who sanctions the Indianapolis 500, announced a second reduction in turbo boost to the pushrod purpose-built engines like the Mercedes-Benz that led 193 laps in winning this year's 500. On June 13th, the boost for those engines was reduced from 55 to 52 inches. Ilmor, the company that built the Mercedes-Benz, then began building engines for the 1995 Indy 500 for Penske Racing and for other Ilmor customers. Last week, USAC further reduced the boost to 48 inches. According to Paul Ray of Ilmor, 30 blocks and crankshafts had been machined that are now worthless, a loss in excess of $1 million. I talked with Roger Penske, a partner in Ilmor, who called the action politically motivated and said nothing at all had changed since June. Penske said that no engineering data was collected on the Mercedes-Benz and added, what assurances does any engine builder now have that they won't change the rules again? That change, by the way, also impacts Greenfield and Menard engines. Mike Devin of USAC had said that the boost on any engine could be changed at any time. Honda said that they hope that engineering data would be used to make such decisions, and then the rules stay in place. Peter Spence of Ford Cosworth said the Mercedes-Benz engine took advantage of a rule, and they would prefer everyone were on even ground. IndyCar does not permit that purpose-built pushrod engine and therefore had no position on the change at all. Roger Penske said he will now consider racing at Indy next year using the existing stock block rules. The Speedway and USAC also announced that only one engine will be allowed for the Indy 500 for 1996 and beyond, a 4-cam turbocharged racing engine of 2.2 liters. Now that's the same design as is currently used in the Ford Cosworth, the Honda, and Ilmor, except that new engine would be about half a liter smaller. All the manufacturers and IndyCar welcomed that idea, assuming that there are no sudden changes to that rule. USAC said the rule will remain unchanged through the year 2000.
Well, you saw Roger Penske there. It's a significant skirmish because it places Tony, George, and Roger in an adversarial position.
And really, what the bottom line of it is, it just puts the Mercedes business to bed. It's done. It's finished. They can't have enough horsepower with that kind of boost, so they'll just have to use something else.
All right, more on current situations. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Further pursuing that business of the black flag, Paul, for Paul Tracy. We talked with Clive Howell, who's on the radio with Tracy. We had heard from Richard Buck in Al Unser's camp. Clive simply said, yes, Paul questioned the call, and he was not happy on the radio. But he says, you can't question a black flag. You cannot take a chance. We had to bring him in. And he says, we've done it. We've got him back out. Now as we get set to go green, we've got a brand new race.
We're back to racing, green flag, and Paul Tracy is very much a man with a purpose. He's got two cars, Robbie Gordon and Stefan Johansson, between him and the leader of the race, Unser Jr. Back on board with Gordon. Gordon runs in 4th place. The Penske cars are 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Unser Jr., Tracy, and Fittipaldi.
Now the red and the blue car, Stefan Johansson. That car, for example, doesn't have springs on it. Another change I might mention. Right there, right in the center of the screen, red and blue car. That car uses air shocks only. Air and liquid, of course, for the hydraulic part to make the shock absorber. The car rides on air. Something that was done many years ago. It's coming back in.
Do you think it's a coming thing, Bobby?
Yes, I do. I don't see any reason. I drove one made back in the early 60s, Sam. It was good. Now we have new technology and better stuff to work with.
Paul Tracy, of course, again finds himself having to find a way past Robbie Gordon. This time, a different scenario because he is no longer leading the race. Look at that, an amazing bid.
There's a deal where Robbie got in there a little bit too fast, couldn't get the car down. Paul just went right up underneath him, left him no way to get back down.
Yeah, but look at Teo Fabi here. We said that Tracy would be a man with a purpose, but Fabi is very much in this fight as well as he tries to get around Robbie Gordon. By the way, the 16 car, Stefan Johansson, you were talking about him, Bobby. Ken Anderson, the engineer on that car, does a remarkable job with all of those shock absorbers. He started well back in the field in 21st position and now runs in 12th. So something must be working for Johansson.
Well, they've said that they know that it's better. The team doesn't have an awful lot of money, so testing has been a premium. But they definitely say that the air shocks are better than putting the spring steel springs like we have on passenger cars on the car.
Don't overlook the skill of Stefan Johansson. Watch him drive that blue and red car there. It's just terrific. Another refugee from Formula One who's really taken to IndyCars and does a beautiful job.
And look how much of the race course he uses. He has a line that takes up every inch of this 2.2-mile Mid-Ohio sports car course.
And of course, the idea of the air shocks is to keep the tires on the ground more often, less wheel spin, or where it's rough. Now, this track is not real rough, so I don't think they shine as good here on the air shock as they would at some tracks we run at. But it makes common sense that where it gets rough, they're going to have an advantage.
But Bobby, trying to keep the wheel on the ground as much as they can, and yet having the suspension be able to adjust to a rough part of the course and then a smooth part of the course is what the Penske's have been so good at, and now the Lolas seem to be catching up as well as the Renards. That's really where all the focus of development is right now.
Yes, and of course, remember another thing. Above all, there's a lot of different ways to build a mousetrap, and that's really what all these guys do. A lot of different ideas, and they just take a different direction to get to the same place.
All right now the distance from the leader back to Paul Tracy is 3.8 seconds. This is a vital thing. He has got to get by Johansson and set sail for Little Al if this is going to be close. There's Little Al. Now look up at the top of the screen. Here comes the red and blue car of Johansson, and there is Paul Tracy. He's got to dispose of Johansson right now.
3.8 seconds behind at the last crossing of the line.
Little Al, of course,
again,
can look in his mirrors, and as long as he sees Stefan Johansson and not Paul Tracy, his heart is light.
He can't see him back that far, Sam. The idea is Little Al wants to make hay while the sun shines, so to speak. He's going to get away as far as he can, so when Paul does get around Johansson, he's not going to have to worry about him for a while.
Moving to the final laps of this race,
okay,
12 to go.
There's Johansson motioning Paul Tracy by, so we're going to have a clean pass.
He told him to go by on the inside, breaking down at the end of the long straightaway. Made it very easy for him.
So now Paul Tracy in definite contact with Al Unser Jr. Look at Robbie Gordon. Thank Johansson for moving to the side and letting him come through as well. Gordon is in 4th place. He's not in direct pursuit contact with Paul Tracy.
Sorry, Paul. Boy, is it great when you get a wave by like that from an adversary.
Yeah, but look at Johansson as he uses all the course again. You know what drives you nuts, though, is when you get a wave by like that, and the driver is lifting his hand off the wheel in a very difficult part of the circuit like he did there.
Yeah, Johansson being hard to pass like that just gave Little Al up to 6 seconds. In other words, from 3.8 to 6 seconds, or roughly a 2-second gap on Paul Tracy, which you can see right here. Paul Tracy's way down there. Now, Little Al wants that much, or maybe even more, because this guy is really capable of winning.
But you can see there that Paul Tracy, in the past couple laps, has not really been turned on quite as much as Al Unser Jr. Maybe now that he's open in traffic, he will be able to close, but the reality on the stopwatch is the past 3 laps, he's actually fallen a bit behind. So Al Unser Jr. turned a lap just now at 117 miles an hour. He's averaging 109. We'll be back after this message and a word from your ABC station. On board with Raul Boisel at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, the Miller Genuine Draft 200. We look at the telemetry. He just went around Eddie Cheever, who is driving A.J. Foyt's number 14 car. Eddie is in that car, of course, because Brian Herta was injured in a practice accident at Toronto's Exhibition Place on the 16th of July. The good news is that Brian Herta is doing very, very well. He's on crutches now. As a matter of fact, he went to the Brickyard 400 that you saw here on ABC last week, and he expects to be back racing at the beginning of next season. I know everybody in the pits wishes Brian Herta well.
You know, Dick Steinman has never won a race. Right here with Boisel, he's come so close this year and had some bad luck with it. Good car, good team. They really are getting up in the first-class deal. They need a win.
Boisel has moved from a starting position back in the teens up to 8th. He's had one of the best drives today. He started 17th. He's a smooth driver. Of course, he almost won the Michigan 500 2 weeks ago.
The interesting thing about him, Sam, is he's good on any type of track, whether it's a road circuit or an oval.
Currently running in third place is the third Penske car, Emerson Fittipaldi. There he is. Penske cars once again 1, 2, and 3. This is going to continue that battle for the championship between Unser Jr. and Fittipaldi, and Michael Andretti sits in 5th, so the points are going to maintain the same relative interview. Next week,
they're going to split out
just a little bit.
Yeah.
Next week, they head off to Loudon. Very, very fast oval. You'll see coverage of that as well as the rest of the season on ESPN. One other note, and don't forget this, the IROC comes up next. And the IROC has one terrific race to determine the championship.
Don't miss that one. Looking at Emerson Fittipaldi right there. A lot of people ask me, Paul, is Emma going to retire next year? Everybody kind of assumes he's getting old and tired, but I'm going to tell you something. This guy is not old. He's not tired. I don't think he's going to retire anytime soon, and I think he's as tough now as he's ever been.
7 laps to go. Emerson Fittipaldi, who won the last 2 races here at Mid-Ohio, and holds the race record at 107.352 miles an hour. They're faster than that now at 109.9. Ari Leyendijk, he's done a nice job coming up through this field.
If you're Roger Penske and you've got Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi, and Paul Tracy driving for you, you say, whoa, if I want to cut my team to 2 cars instead of this fairly unwieldy 3 cars, who do I cut?
Be a hard decision to make, wouldn't it, Sam? I'm glad I'm not the one that would ever have to make that decision.
Best indication, though, is if they would reduce to a 3-car team, Sam, is that from some people very close to Paul Tracy that he might be the one to go.
Well, that's
where does he go?
That's what we hear. But when you think of letting that kind of talent get away from you.
Dominic Dobson off course again. Not having the most pleasant of days.
Doesn't get a lot of traction on that grass with those slick tires. You notice that?
This is one of the Pac West team cars, Scott Sharp being in the other one, and Danny Sullivan tested for this team earlier this week. We talk, of course, about who might drive for who next year. Sullivan went very, very well for this team, helped them with their setups and so forth, and Danny Sullivan is looking for a ride. Might he wind up in a car like this? Who knows?
You know, it was interesting that all of the talk, what we call the silly season, on who's going to end up where next year was very hot the past couple of weeks, and then suddenly it's gotten very quiet again. Let's go down to the Penske pits once again, Gary.
Well, those who follow the racing fortunes of these teams on scanners have been getting an earful from Roger Penske, talking with Junior a lot as they try to protect the lead, advising him to watch it, go carefully, watch the downshifting. Now with 5 laps to go, we understand he was just given the message, he being Unser, it's your own race, go for it. So now they've just pulled out all the stops, and he's looking awful strong, isn't he?
Paul Tracy very definitely not in pursuit, 7.5 seconds behind.
Yeah, little Al's also smart enough to know that he's not going to try to make 9 seconds out of a 7-point-something seconds gap. He doesn't need it. He just wants to win. Ironically, he's really after the points battle more than I've ever seen him in my life.
Let's go back. Nigel Mansell runs in 7th place. Raul Boisel is closing on Mansell. Battle of the Lolas here. Mansell, who qualified almost a full second quicker than any other Lola in the field.
Now, we've talked about Dick Simon, who owns the Boisel car, and how he doesn't have the support, perhaps financially or otherwise, that Mansell has with the factory Lola and the factory help from Ford. What satisfaction it would be for Simon and his team if they could pass Mansell right now in the waning stages of this race.
There's probably 2.5 times the difference in the budget between the car in front, Nigel Mansell's, and Boisel's with the Dick Simon team right there. They operate probably with about, I would say, maximum 3.5 million, maybe 4 million a year in Boisel's car, the little gold-colored car there. Mansell, on the other hand, you could either double or triple it, and you'd probably still be way under it, Sam.
Not mentioning paying Nigel's salary.
Well, Nigel's salary, for example, would be more than Boisel's or Dick Simon's budget for the entire year. That's the ironic difference between these things.
For an update on Nigel Mansell, here's Jack.
Well, it's not been a great day for Nigel Mansell. From the start of the race, he complained about the handling of the car. He's been battling a severe understeer throughout the course of the afternoon. Just a couple of laps ago, he radioed in. He said he felt like the car felt 10 pounds heavier than he'd ever driven before. Don't know if maybe, Sam, maybe when he was out there racing with his kids, did he have a little extra ice cream?
Oh, well, he had one of the kids with him. Maybe she's riding with him again now.
3 laps to go now for the leader of the race, Al Unser Jr. The Penske cars, Junior, Tracy, Fittipaldi, the only ones on the lead lap.
You can just watch Mansell. When he gets to those real sharp turns like that, he just almost comes to a stop. And that's, of course, how Boycell stays up on him so close. The car is a good car. They've just missed on their handling today.
4th place is Robbie Gordon. 5th place is Michael Andretti. They are not in contact with one another. Then Fernandez. And then this battle. Mansell and Boycell. Battle for 7th. Jacques Villeneuve sits behind them. And 9th place. And then 10th. There's Jack in 9th place. There's Mario in 10th.
I guess if I had a surprise here, it would have to be Villeneuve. I expected him to be a whole lot faster than he has. I think it's probably just not figuring out the Mid-Ohio. There he is, Jacques Villeneuve. Very good car, very good driver, and a very good team. He just hasn't figured out Mid-Ohio road course.
Update on Jack now. Here is Gary Gerald.
Well, one of the problems that they experienced this weekend was the fact that, remember, 2 weeks ago in the race at Michigan, they had the big crash. And so while they were working to repair cars, they missed the test session at Mid-Ohio. That, they felt, really put them behind. So Villeneuve has had a catch-up weekend all weekend long. And all in all, I think the team was very proud of the fact that he was able to qualify as high on the grid as he did.
That was in 6th, of course, and I think they just missed the setup for the race. That's where their testing hurt them.
Villeneuve's fastest lap at 113 miles an hour. You saw it a moment ago. The fastest lap of the race set by Al Unser Jr. on lap 20 at 117.7 miles an hour. Fortunately, with the EDS scoring system, we can keep track of all of those things for you. Used to be 2 or 3 days after a race when we knew when the fastest lap of the race was.
I was just going to say, Paul, how did we ever get by without the EDS system in the old days? Boy, I mean, we'd have information instantly now.
Paul Tracy is 6.4 seconds behind. Al Unser Jr., the leader of the race.
Computers, of course, everywhere now in the business. IndyCar just did a deal with IBM. It's an electronic world of racing. Used to be a mechanical world. It's changing over to at least a partially electronic world. Al Unser Jr. has finished 8 of the 9 last races he has run at Mid-Ohio.
And he works now on the final lap. The white flag already given by Jim Swintal. And Al Unser Jr. came across the line 5.5 seconds ahead of Paul Tracy. But Paul Tracy at least has him in his sights at the moment. And Al Unser Jr. can't afford to lag too much behind the slower cars that sit ahead of him. Looking for Tracy. Tracy is still well back. Al Unser Jr. has to decide. Does he come around Parker Johnstone and Mark Smith, or does he just stay there?
The finish line is only 2 turns away from where he is right now, so he'll probably stay where he is.
Al Unser Jr. heading through the carousel now, out of the carousel, and for the checkered flag as Al Unser Jr. scores his 6th win of the season and the 25th win of his career. Al Unser Jr. has taken the run at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We'll be back to talk with him after this. Back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course as Al Unser Jr. has just taken the win. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And before he climbs out of the car, here's the car owner, Roger Penske, the 3rd Penske sweep this year, 1, 2, 3. Was it the 2 days of testing here that really paved the way a week and a half ago?
Well, I think that, you know, testing always helps you. The cars have worked well on these types of circuits all year. And we've got 3 great drivers. Paul had a tough call on him there, I guess, on that black flag, which put him behind Al. Al's running for the championship guard. Paul wants to win the race, so you've got a different set of situations for each driver, but it's a great day for the team. And again, our people won this race for us. I'm just thrilled to be here.
Congratulations. Let's go back up to the booth, Paul.
Thanks. Good.
So Roger Penske, as they score their 3rd in a row for Penske at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The last 2 scored by Emerson Fittipaldi. Unofficial final standings, Al Unser Jr. Paul Tracy was 1.6 seconds behind, and Emerson Fittipaldi rounded off the sweep. Then Robbie Gordon with a great race. We look down through the entire lineup of this field, and that is the best finish, by the way, the 6th place finish for Adrian Fernandez of his career. So young Adrian had a really terrific day. We look all the way down through the 28-car field now of the run of the Miller Genuine Draft 200 from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.